Hi and welcome, my name's Michael Muncie, I'm the director here at Noel Jones in Mitcham, and welcome to our second video in our series regarding the Residential Tenancies Act changes that are coming into effect on the 29th of March this year. So what we wanted to cover in today's video is the leasing and releasing process. Now we feel this is one of the pressure points for owners in relation to their obligations with the new regulations. So we're going to cover the application process, what we can and can't ask of our tenants. It is fair to say that we believe the process of putting a new tenant in and who you select as the tenant for your property has never been more important, because it's important that we have a good relationship with them and that we're being compliant to them and vice versa. Secondarily, we're going to talk to you about the checks that you need to have complied with as a lease event takes place. So gas, electrical, smoke alarm, carbon monoxide, and the switchboard regulations that are coming into place. And we'll go through some of the things in relation to rent arrears and some of the things to keep in mind as we go through the leasing. So I'm going to throw over to Ivy Mao, our head of department now, and we're going to cover off some of this detail.
Hello everyone, Ivy is here. I'm the rental department head in Noel Jones Mitcham office. Follow up with our last video intro about new Residential Tenancy Act amendment changes coming on the way. And this time we're talking something more details in leasing part. I hope you can find it useful of this video. Thank you.
So let's perhaps start with the owner's obligations. So their property becomes available for lease, or there's a renewal of the lease. So what do we need from the owner?
Okay, so the Consumer Affairs and local government now, they require the first thing is called the owner disclosure statement. So this is pretty much including the owner have obligation need to tell us, we need to provide to the renters whether your place has been compliant for the minimum safety standard, and also if, for example, if the property built by all the time have any asbestos, all these details we need to be able to provide the renter before we enter to a lease agreement.
So it's pretty straightforward. So you'll receive this disclosure document through Inspection Express. It'll come as an email and you can sign it electronically. It's a simple form.
Yes, I actually, in fact, I did bring a copy of this one. As we've been practice use all the future technology, this one will be sending to those rental providers by email, electronic form. So once you receive the form, it's just a follow through every detail requirement. They will ask you whether you has been done smoke alarm service such and such. So you just follow through. And any information you are unsure or you have concerns, please ring us, let us know, and anything we can assist on, we are more than happy to do so.
Absolutely. So when the tenant applies for the property, we need to provide them with a statement of information, which is a one-page form. We'll talk about that in a moment, what that contains. But then the disclosure statement, which you've talked about, that has to be a part of the application. So what else is within the disclosure statement?
Well, the disclosure statement have quite much details, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, we must let the renter have a full knowledge, know if the property met the minimum safety compliance requirement. That's one thing. And the other things, such as, for example, if the rental provider have any intention in the next 12 months or so, have a plan to sell the property, we must let the renter know as well.
Absolutely.
And furthermore, for example, if the property in the last certain amount of time has been have a drug uses before, all these details we have to notify the renters. And this one have to be done before we actually put the property to the rental market.
Absolutely. So as a part of the application process, it has to be disclosed to the tenant. It's a fairly simple form. It's just going to go through the detail of the information to make sure, and every property in Victoria is going to have a copy of that.
Yeah, and the form is also very easy to follow up. If you know the property has, for example, the property has been done the smoke alarm service in the last 12 months, you click yes. If no is no, then, we will probably coordinate with you to arrange these things have to be arranged as soon as possible. So things like that.
So we think that's a pressure point for owners that obviously when the property becomes available for lease, so with the new compliance checks, maybe we quickly touch base on that. So we've got a provider called Smart House Australia. Now they are, for the purpose of simplicity, they can take care of all of the maintenance checks. So you can subscribe to use that service, and that service will break those parts down, and we'll send that out to you via email.
So for example, with the gas service checking, what they require is not only gas ducted heating. If you have a gas cooktop, any gas appliance, all these things have to be included. Same as electrical safety check. So what they actually asking is any electrical installation and also any electrical fittings. That's also including not only the main switchboard have a safety switch, but also, for example, power point. All these details have to be included in the safety checks.
Absolutely. So it's going to feel overwhelming as an owner, but it doesn't have to. I think there's a choice that you've got as an owner where you do have to be compliant. So every property in Victoria has to meet the obligations, whether you choose to put it through a central provider or some people will choose to use their own trades or use the suite of tradespeople that we've got. And we're going to work with you on working out what the best game plan is. So there's an easy option, there's using our trades or there's using your trades. But the key thing is to make sure that in particular when a new lease comes up, you will have to disclose those checks to the tenant. And that'll have an impact on the applications that come through. And it also has a flow-on impact to urgent repairs if it's not done.
Yeah. So in this case, if we mention this minimum safety requirement haven't met before we lease to the property, then suddenly this one, the tenant can approach to tribunal.
Yes.
Then they can make it, this is the urgent repair. So as all of you have been aware as well, the urgent repair amount has been increased from 1,800 to 2,500. So in another case, if the tenant approach to the wicket, they may send this one as urgent repair. We have to attend this one immediately. So one way or the other, these things have to be done. I would say the best practice and also on the best of your benefit is get all these things under control. Let's arrange it. Well, it's a case by case because the majority of our rental provider already do smoke alarm service on an annual basis.
That's right.
So when we come to the leasing part, we will contact you. We can walk you through.
Absolutely. So the property's come up for lease, we've done the disclosure statement, we've got the applicants coming through. So what are we allowed to check for new tenants? Because that's changed a little bit. So what are we allowed to ask, and talk us through that?
Yeah, so there was some new requirement from the government, especially Consumer Affairs sending out all this one called the Statement of Information for rental applicants, and by law, we have to display this one on every of our open, just
That's
like
right.
a Privacy Act. So on this one, every renters, when they come to the inspection, they can review, they can see as well. At the moment, this is the latest version we got. There's a couple of items we are not allowed to ask, such as, I'll just read through out of your interest. It's good to know, such as age, disability, employment activities, gender identity, and parent status, or any physical features, political belief or activities. There was religious belief or activities. There was quite details. It's all under Consumer Affairs website. What they're trying to show is we call it this Equity Opportunity Act in Australia.
That's right.
So based on that one, it's just do not want to apply any discrimination on any renters. However, we will follow the government requirement and we will still have the knowledge to know, to check with the tenant with a reference. But such information, we just unable to disclosure to the rental provider as well.
So I think the one good thing in this is there's now a public framework as to how that application process goes. So some owners might be concerned about this, but the statement of information will be available by law at open for inspection. It'll be actually a part of the application process through one form or any of the application software it's been put across the board, and it's very clear, so that it's very clear as to what can be asked and how that works from the tenant side of things. So that's probably one benefit.
Yeah, so the last 2-3 weeks, the whole industry been pretty busy. So every different organization, especially the platform we've been used a lot for rental application, we have been trying to update all the requirements up to date. We still follow up consumer affairs because there's still a statement information have to rolling out in this last couple of days, because the new things start right next Monday, the 29th of March. So things still have to be testing. Well, under the process, if there's things that have any further update, we will keep you informed as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've done your disclosure statement, you've had your tenant, we've done the application, you're happy with the person, we're going to put them in. So we do an entry condition report, obviously. Now there's some changes, or there's some discussion around minimum standards and professional cleaning standards. Let's talk about those.
So the professional cleaning. So before, whenever the tenant move out, we used to send our boundary from the checklist. On the checklist, we normally require the tenant to do a professional cleaning, especially, property have a carpet, we need a professional steam cleaning. Under the new change, so if the property haven't done one, peer the tenant move into the property, which, can't, state on the entry condition report as well. If we haven't done one, or you done one, but the vacancy time was a bit longer, not immediately happen to the renter move in, then we can't require the renter must provide professional cleaning at the end of the tenancy. That's the difference.
So it's we've been talking a lot about this internally. So what it looks like is that if you're going to challenge the tenant through the VCAT process, if you clean the property yourself when you first lease it under these guidelines, that's the level of cleanliness is an opinion. But if you pay for a professional cleaner and get an invoice for that, and that's a part of the condition report, then that's the level of benchmark that the tenant has to meet when they exit the lease. And that's our recommendation.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been approached this matter to our industry leader as well. So the conclusion coming is that everybody have a different professional cleaning standard.
Yes.
The cleaning we saw are really, really clean, but in the tenant judgment, they may not agree. So the best way to avoid this dispute, the best way is we ask a professional cleaner or professional cleaning company provide us a invoice, and this invoice become evidence we will attach at the end of the entry condition report. So there's no argument. This has been done, this has been carried on by cleaning company. So there's no dispute, no argument, clear enough for everyone.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the key point. With property management, it's about making sure our paperwork is very solid. And I think that that's a really key benchmark, and certainly that'd be our strong advice to you, is to use a professional cleaner because it removes opinion from the conversation, leaves it as fact. It's going to be easier if there's any problems down the track. And there has been a change to the way that tenants can deal with the RTBA, which is the Residential Tenancies Bond Association, at the end of the lease. So the tenants can now actually apply to have their bond released direct to the RTBA. So it's important now that this paperwork's in order, isn't it?
Definitely. So the renters are more and more aware they are rights. So with the new change, normally, for example, when the tenant ending a tenancy, we contact them and do the final cleaning. Sometimes we do need to require them to come back, re-clean some area, and also if there was some damage, they need to touch up and make it as the condition close their entry. There was a time, but now the time being squeezed off. So if we don't finalize in a particular time of a period, 10 business days, the tenant allow to contact RTBA to get the refund by themselves, unless there's a dispute. For example, there was a damage, and the damage was quite, I would say the dollar amount is quite serious, and we have to launch an application with the tribunal. In that way, we can notify RTBA, which is the bond authority. We can notify them there's a reason why we're holding up this bond. Otherwise, if we don't respond, the bond, will be rolling back to the tenant. So we have to be very careful on this part of moving forward as well.
So I think it's our opinion. We believe that leasing and releasing is the most important part of the process with these new changes, to make sure that we've got the compliance and the paperwork in really high order, so that if we do have any challenges throughout the lease that we need to tackle, we've got the paperwork and the structure in place to deal with it. What would your suggestions be to owners around? So we've got their property coming up for lease. What are the most important things they need to focus on?
So as soon as we be notified, this property need to be re-entered to the rental market, again, and we will contact the rental provider. As soon as they confirm, yes, let's go ahead, we want to relight the property again, we have to send you paperwork, and please, fill up the paperwork, read through the paperwork, and complete it as soon as possible, because those information we have to provide beforehand.
Yes.
So as early as we prepared and we are ready to go,
yes,
and we can start the application process.
So we'll keep this rather simple. Your property comes up for lease. What's the process?
So the process is we will contact you, rental provider, and we will prepare a disclosure statement which have the information such as the compliance, if you have been done smoke alarm check or not. It's just a really simple form. Click yes or no or unsure, and then please send that back to us. We need to get it ready to present to the renter as well.
Absolutely. So they will need to have that document as a part of the application. So we can't receive that application without the disclosure statement. So that is really important.
And follow up on that disclosure statement, then we will know, for example, yes, your property has been done smoke alarm service, have been done all the gas appliances check, but haven't done electrical safety check in the last 2 years. Then we will contact you. We will organize what is the best solution for your property to get compliance.
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
And then we've got the minimum standards that come behind that as well, and the professional cleanliness standards that we've talked about.
Yeah, and also some other details such like logs. We will double check with you if everything being compliant. Whichever item we need to attend, we just simply arrange it. Again, it's not too much to follow. As long as we follow the guideline, follow the requirement, will be a simple flow.
Absolutely. Yes. So Ivy, what do you feel is the biggest difference or impact to our owners?
At this stage, we already start using the new form. The difference is also, apart from the disclosure statement from the owner, we found out all the information all laid out in the new lease agreement as well. So when renters enter a new lease agreement, all this information, your property has been, compliance, all the details also state into the lease agreement. So one way or the other, we just can't escape from this one. We have to meet the requirement. So provide all the information to the renter.
That's a good point. So for you as the owner, the disclosure report or the disclosure statement will be something that you'll see as a part of the leasing. The new leases have got all that information contained within it, and we need to provide that information to the tenant at the point of their application. It also flows through to the minimum standards that are in place around some of the things we've mentioned in the previous video that we've done. So we'll put the link in for that so you can go back to those changes as well. And importantly, our recommendations around professional cleaning and ensuring we've got an invoice there for professional cleaning. Obviously, we've covered a lot of ground here today, and I'm sure you're going to have some questions that are specific to your property that you want to ask us directly. So feel free to reach out to us at the office at 9872 3995 or at mitcham@noeljones.com.au. We'd love to have that conversation with you and answer any key questions that you've got. We look forward to seeing you soon.